Hey guys, today I'm gonna film my labor and delivery story. So this is my birth vlog, and if you hear any squeaking, it's because Isla is right here, my baby. So at about 30, my whole pregnancy, I kind of thought that she would come early, but at about 37 weeks, I just knew like she was gonna be overdue. My due date was May 12th, and I knew that, like, I wasn't very confident in that date. I had scheduled it, I had circled it on the schedule, on, like, the calendar, but I just kind of was like, yeah, we're gonna go beyond that. So, throughout my whole pregnancy, like, I had no Braxton Hicks contractions. The last few weeks, I had at all my checkups, I was not dilated whatsoever. I was not effaced at all. I was completely closed for business. And at my 40-week checkup, my doctor had given me the option. What's going on? My doctor had given me the option of, like, she's like, I mean, we're going to schedule a 41-week appointment. And at that, if I see you there, we will decide what you want to do. Like, we can wait another week and see what happens, or we can schedule an induction. So I remember, like, I think we kind of tentatively scheduled an induction for Monday. I think it was Monday the 21st. And let me think here. And this was May 11th, like a Friday that I was visiting at my 40 week. And so I had been really active my whole pregnancy, and my doctor wasn't concerned about just kind of letting things like ride out. I was doing everything I could every day. Like, I was working out, and then, like, the last couple weeks, I was walking the dog every day, like 3-mile walks every single day. I was trying to do everything I could. At 40 weeks and 5 days, that night, I ate some really spicy chili. I had heard that spicy things can get the process moving. I also had a dream that, I also had been practicing hypnobirthing throughout my, like, the last 4 months of my pregnancy. I practiced every single day, and that night I did a different meditation than I'd never done it before, but I did like a cervix opening meditation where it's just kind of like your mindset, and you're moving your body in certain ways to envision, like, the baby moving down into the birth canal and your cervix opening and allowing life to come through and all that stuff. So I did that night too, and I felt really relaxed before I went to bed. And that whole night I had a dream that I had a stomach ache. And when I woke up at 6 the next morning to go to work, I still kind of, like, it wasn't just a dream. I still kind of had this weird stomach ache, but it was like, it went away, like, within a minute. And I went downstairs to go wake Cullen up, and we're talking, and now it's about 6:15, and he's like, well, what do you mean you have a stomach ache? And he's kind of looking at me like, honey, you're very pregnant. Like, are you sure it's not contractions? I'm like, no, it's not contractions. I'm going to work. You're going to work. Let's go get ready. By 6:30, he had talked me out of going to work. He said, I don't think so. I think we're staying home. I think today's the day. And I'm glad that I listened to him. He was right. And he loves that but I'm so stubborn. I totally would have went to work that day. And I totally could have, like, if you know the timeline of events, but it was for the best. It was really nice that we were able to spend that last day together. So we went out to breakfast, ran a couple errands, came back home. It was probably about noon, and he laid down, took a nap on the couch, and I did some yoga. And then I was still having contractions. They were probably every, like, 5 to 10 minutes apart. But, like, when I say 5, one and, like, every now and then would be, like, 5 minutes later. But for the most part, they were kind of, like, in the 6 to 10 range, and they weren't severe. They were just, like, I compare them, like, I never get period cramps, so I didn't know what that was like either, but the only thing that I could compare them to was, like, if you've ever eaten something kind of upsetting to your stomach, and you get that, like, pinch or cramp, like, in your gut, and like, I have to find a bathroom now. That's kind of the feeling that I was having. But it was totally manageable. So he kept telling me, you should call the hospital, blah, 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 like tell them. And I was of the mindset, like, when you know, you know. And right now we don't know. So no, I'm not calling the hospital. And I needed to relax, and he was anxious, and he was making me anxious. So I sent him away. He went to his dad's house for a little bit and worked on some stuff. And I stayed at home. I took a nap. I took a bath. And then the bath was probably at about 2 or 3 o'clock. And when I was stepping out of the bath, my mucus plug fell out. And it was not anything like bloody or anything. It was just like this sticky beige colored substance. And I had called him and told him that, and he asked how things were going. I said they were fine, still the same, like nothing crazy, no pain, like nothing extreme. Fast forward to about probably 4 o'clock, and things started to pick up to the point where, like, now I was, like, needing to close my eyes when I got a contraction. I was, like, focusing on things. I was watching TV, and I needed to mute the TV every time I got one. They were still, like, 5 to 6 minutes apart, though. And, again, like, nothing too extreme. But I knew, like, in the back of my mind, I knew things were progressing. So I think about 6:30, 7 o'clock maybe, I called him, and that was when I was actually, like, not panicking, but like, holy shit, he better get home. And I called him, and I'm like, what are you doing? When are you coming home? And he's like, why? What's wrong? I'm like, things are getting pretty serious over here. And he's like, what? You told me you were fine like a couple hours ago. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm not. So he rushed home, and he's like assessing me, and we're packing our bags and making sure everything. I had my bag packed, but we were kind of just getting last minute stuff ready. And we called my mom, and she came over because she was going to pick up the dog and take him back to her house for the night. And she came over about 8:30, and by the time she got here at 8:30, it was the kind of thing, like, she walked into the house, and she saw me, and I was doubled over, like, the counter, and I was like, and she just took one look at me and said, you need to go to the hospital. You look like I did when I needed to go to the hospital. And I'm like, well, that's where we're going. So we drove to the hospital, and we probably got there about 9-ish and checked in. We had told them, we called on our way and said we were coming. And so we were probably admitted at 9:30 at night. And they started running tests, and she had a really low heart rate. Like, they were having a really hard time tracking her. They said I was at 3 centimeters when I was admitted at 9. So I was 3 centimeters at 9:30, and her heart rate was really low. So they said, like, that was pretty much their reason for keeping me. Otherwise, they maybe would have sent us off and told us to come back in a little while if I progressed more. And so 3 centimeters at 9:30, and that was when we were admitted. They took us to our room and kept monitoring her, and things definitely progressed. Like, I was doing really well. And then I got to the point where I was at 7 centimeters, and I started to get nauseous. And I do not do well with, and it was the kind of nausea that just, like, never went away. Like, even if you threw up, like, normally, like, when I get nausea, I throw up and then it's gone and it just disappears. But it wasn't. And I think that was the worst part, was because it was totally messing with me and I couldn't focus. Plus, her heart rate was so low and almost non-existent that every time I had a contraction, the nurse pressed the monitor, like, into my stomach. So I'm throwing up, and I'm sitting there like I'm throwing up. I'm having a contraction, someone's digging something in, and they were, like, pressing it into my belly. I'm like, there is too much going on here, and it kind of just pissed me off, and I got really frustrated. I tried the, like, oh my gosh, what was it? Like, the gas mask, and that was really annoying, too. I didn't like it. I didn't like that I had to hold it. I wanted my hands to be free to just, like, zen, and I had to hold it, and that just seemed, like, really obstructive to my personal bubble. So I asked for an epidural at 7 centimeters, and that was amazing. And I think I had, from the minute he put it in, I had like 2 more contractions, and then I was good. And I took a nap, and I got the epidural about, I think, 12:30, 1 o'clock. And by, I think, like 2:30 or so, they came in and they said, you're like almost completely effaced. You're at like a 9-10, and you're looking good. So the end is near. And I think I think by 3 a.m. I was starting to push, and they said, so they're like, okay, like a really big push. And, you think about, like, I had envisioned this moment for so long, and I knew, like, I'm a tough girl. I'm going to give it everything I've got. And so that first push, I remember being like, all right, I'm fucking blowing this one out, And I pushed so hard, and I remember seeing, like I peed, and like this huge stream came up and like went all over the nurses and the doctors. And I remember like stopping and being like, basically like sucking everything back in and being like, oh, I'm so sorry. Is that going to happen? And they're like, no, you probably just got it all out. So I pushed, and I remember looking at the clock at about 3:08. I looked at my watch at 3:18, and I said, this baby is going to be out before 3:30. And so it was a pretty quick sequence of events. Like, we got admitted at 9:30. Baby was born 6 hours later, and everything went well. I think she had the cord wrapped around her neck twice, and really they said that had my contractions really slowed down like around 3 a.m. when I started to push, and suddenly they were like 5 minutes apart, and they wanted me to push only on contractions. So it was like, every 5 minutes between like 3 and 3:30, then I could push. And so they said, like, had my contractions not slowed down, probably would have been out within like less than 15 minutes or something of pushing. So that was kind of interesting, but everything went well, and we had a healthy baby. She was 6 pounds, 7 ounces, 19.5 inches long, and yeah, and she's perfect. And I tore just a tiny bit. I needed 1 stitch. The doctor said she like showed me it would just go like it was just 1 loop and tie it. So that was good. I didn't have like a lot of pain with recovery. I bled for maybe like a week and a half. Everything was pretty simple, but I definitely had diapers. Don't get me wrong. Like, I wore adult diapers, but everything went well. So that is my labor and delivery story, and thanks for watching. Let me know if you have questions.